Hi guys, welcome to this week's Random Ramble. So this week what I wanted to do is talk you through my tier system that I use in terms of what to prioritize when you're trying to get started with losing weight. Now, for those of you who are actually clients of mine, we already have a plan that we are following, but it's worth watching this just to sort of remind yourself of the basics and give yourself an idea of why we're taking the approach that we're taking. However, those of you who are in the Facebook group, the Clever Calorie Club, or people who are watching on the YouTube channel who are actually just trying to get started with their weight loss, or who are trying to get restarted after hitting a stumbling block or having to stop for some reason, this video is going to help you understand what you should be prioritizing and why. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually share my screen with you today because I've got a really simple graphic that I've put together to help you understand what I'm talking about. So bear with me a minute. I'm just going to figure out the technology. Okay, here we go. Perfect. So hopefully you can see that. And obviously this is really basic, but it should just help make things a little bit clearer. Now, the reason I've chosen to do this video this week is because I've actually had a few conversations with people who are really commonly, they are stuck focusing on the things that they don't need to focus on. All the stuff that sits at the top of this little pyramid, all the other crap. So I'm talking about people who are trying to get started by thinking about what particular food should I be eating? What macronutrient split should I be following? What supplements should I have? What time of day should I eat? Do I have to have breakfast? Do I need to drink a certain amount of water? Do I need to sleep a certain amount of time? What should I be doing to manipulate my hormones? All that kind of stuff, to be brutally honest with you, for the vast majority of people, is a waste of your energy, because if you're just simply trying to lose weight in order to look and feel better and to improve your health, then you don't need to worry about all that kind of stuff. That stuff is there for the people who are almost in the kind of elite category, people who are trying to get as lean as possible to get on stage, people who are trying to actually have an impact on their sporting performance, stuff like that. For the vast majority of us, we don't need to worry about all the stuff that sits in here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start from the very bottom. I'm going to give each one a bit of an exclamation and explain why you should be prioritizing it. So the very first thing that anyone who is trying to get started or start again with losing weight should be looking at is the amount of calories they are consuming. Now, I've said it over and over again in these videos and in my posts all over the place. There's a reason that this Facebook group is called the Clever Calorie Club, and that is because calories are the number one thing that impacts the weight that we gain or we lose. Calories are a measurement of energy. Everything we eat and drink contains calories. Our body needs energy. However, if we consume more calories than our body requires to actually function in a day, we will store the excess energy as body fat. In order to start losing weight, we need to flip that on its head. We need to start consuming less calories than our body is using throughout the day to ensure that we start actually unlocking some of that fat and using it as energy to start losing weight. It really is that simple. So when people talk about what supplements and stuff like that they should be taking, you know, you're in completely the wrong ballpark. If you're just starting out, your primary focus should be, how can I reduce my calories in? Now, there's lots of different ways to do this, but you need to be aware that how much you eat has a direct impact on the results you're going to get. A really useful tool is something like MyFitnessPal. You could actually track the calories that you are consuming. That's sort of one end of the scale as to how in control you are. The other end of the scale would be to simply weigh yourself regularly, but make small changes to your portion sizes until you find the kind of sweet spot where you start losing weight. That means you are creating that calorie deficit, which is what we want to do. So look at something like MyFitnessPal as a tool, or start actually just tracking something, whether that's your weight or the actual food that you're consuming, to start actually monitoring your calories in and get this bit right. If you haven't got this bit nailed yet, there is no point thinking about anything else, because you're almost flogging a dead horse. If you're consuming too many calories, it doesn't matter what your exercise is like, you are not going to lose weight. It's as simple as that. So get this bit right first. Calories in should always be your number one priority. So the next thing to look at is actually in two parts. We've got the calories out, which is obviously the other side of that equation. Increasing the calories that we're burning while reducing the calories that we're consuming will help us lose more weight over time. And I put this one in two parts. So the first one we've got is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. A lot of people just refer to it as NEAT. So this is all the activity that we do, that is not actual planned exercise. So things like walking up the stairs instead of taking the lift, things like walking to work instead of driving, things like taking our kids to the park and actually joining in rather than just sitting down and watching them. All these things, the more active we are throughout the day, the more calories we will burn. And this bit is actually, in my opinion, more important than the actual planned exercise, because you can only burn so many calories in a workout, and you can only work out ever so often. You can be active far more than you are at the moment. Okay, I don't care who you are, there is a way that you can increase your activity if you need to burn more calories. Using things like a step tracker is a great way to do it. If you're someone who has an office job and thinks I have to sit down all day, fine, set an alarm to get up every hour so you walk around the office, or even every half hour. Start walking to work at your lunchtime rather than just sitting in the lunchroom. Actually go out for a walk, go out and do something. There are loads of things that you can do to increase your overall activity, and that should be your biggest activity priority. So you get the calories in right, you know that you're reducing the calories that you're consuming, you're then increasing the calories that you are burning. The other factor that impacts the calories out is obviously your actual planned workouts, your exercise. Now I have put this bit a tier above, so less important than the NEAT side of things, because you do burn less calories during a workout. Most people will be lucky to burn 300, 400 calories in an hour-long workout. And yet, exercise does have an impact on the calories you burn after your workout. So after you finish training, your heart rate remains slightly elevated, so that will have an impact on your overall metabolism. If you are building muscle, that will also impact your overall metabolism, but it's a very small impact compared to actually just being more active. That being said, for most people, they can start with this one and this one together. So they can start thinking about calories in and adding some exercise into their actual schedule at the same time, because it doesn't take a huge amount of effort to start tracking your calories in something like MyFitnessPal, and then you could easily put aside 3 hours a week to actually do some exercise before you start worrying about the actual lifestyle side of things. So yes, I've put them in this order because of the importance, but for most people, they can start with these two at the same time. And that's exactly what I do with my clients. So my clients will start exercising, doing actual planned workouts straight away at the same time as actually starting to monitor their calorie intake and looking at reducing that. Further down the line, we then start looking at other lifestyle changes, which will impact the actual activity levels. So the final tier on this before we get to all the other crap is appetite control. Now, this one could have quite easily just been blended into this. If you just focused on these three here, you would lose weight. However, this is more about thinking about the long term. Now, when you first start out, it's quite easy to reduce your calories in and to start hitting your workouts and increasing your activity because you are motivated. You're excited about the results that you're going to get. As every single one of you know, that motivation will at some point start to let you down. There is a reason that you have failed in the past. And yes, there are mindset tricks and stuff like that that you can do to help increase that motivation. You know, I've done plenty of stuff talking about that in the past. But if we're looking at just the actual basics here, the fact that at some point your motivation is going to let you down, it's important that we start looking at ways that we can control our appetite so it's actually easier to stick with this after we have started to become demotivated. And this is where the actual specifics of what we eat come into play. So things like increasing your fiber intake through fruit and veg, for example, will have a huge impact on how filling a meal is without dramatically increasing the calories. Things like increasing your protein, having protein with every meal will also have a big impact. And also actually managing your portion size. So if you are someone who doesn't like to eat breakfast in the morning, don't eat breakfast in the morning for the sake of it. Save extra calories for the time of the day that you know you're going to be hungrier. If you're someone who snacks in the evening, look at a way to control your appetite prior to that. So maybe save up some calories throughout the day so you can have a big evening meal. Or if you just can't stop the snacking, then actually save some calories to enjoy those snacks. Appetite control is so important in the long term, as are lots of other habits, which is something I've not included in this because we're looking at the bare actual bones of getting you losing weight and keeping it off. So it really is that simple. Now, in all the other stuff, things that you could think about to help change your habits, your macronutrient breakdown could have an impact in terms of your appetite and how you actually feel, your energy levels, which could then have an impact on these things here. But it's different for everyone, so I'm not going to go too in depth for that. But that is something that you can think about if all of this stuff is in place and you've been doing it for a long time and you want to take it to the next level. You could start thinking about things like that. Things like trying to eat at different times, again, to manage your energy levels. So having more food before a workout or having more food after a workout to make sure you've got more energy for the rest of the day, for example, is another thing that you could think about, but only after all this stuff is in place and has been long term. So if you are someone who is just looking to get started, if you are someone who has hit a bit of a stumbling block and is trying to figure out how to get the weight shifting again, this is what you should be looking at. Your first priority, calories in, okay? How many calories am I eating? How can I reduce that number? Calories out, how can I increase the overall calories that I burn on a day-to-day basis? And how can I then add some actual planned exercise in to increase that further? And then to help me stick with this long term, how can I actually start controlling my appetite better so it's easier for me to maintain that calorie deficit long term? So there we go, guys. A lot to take in on that one, but it is actually pretty simple. You don't need to overcomplicate it. I hope that helps. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next video.